Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and it's a pleasure to have you back with us again tonight. We have a very special show, and a lot of you have been asking how you subscribe because you want to see some of the other shows that we've had over the period of time. And so during the program, Buddha will put them up on the screen. Basically, you would go to YouTube under A Time for Truth show and click subscribe. We'd love to have you. So let's go right into the show because we have a very important topic and has to do with our families, has to do with our future. Our children, the future of our country, the future of our communities, the future of Earth, and the most important commodity that we have, our kids. You know, those human beings that we love and that we brought into this world as parents. And tonight we have a very special guest, and Buddha, if you put her pictures up on the screen, I want to introduce to our viewers Barbara Rivera, also known as Barbie. In 1991, Barbara was told by a public school teacher that her 6-year-old son was mentally handicapped and needed medication in order to learn. The fact was that her son was exceptionally well behaved and spoke 2 languages fluently. So Barbie took her son out of school and began homeschooling him, along with her other children and the sons and daughters of her friends. Her homeschooling activity expanded to an accredited private school because of its tremendous accomplishment and results, something that's so important, results. And her school, she named Help Miami. There you see it on the screen, where for over 40 years now, Rivera has successfully educated children who were told by the so-called experts they could not learn. She has exposed the financial incentives offered to public, private, and charter schools to get children as young as 2 on psychotropic medication. And she has testified in court on behalf of a child subjected to 5 years of psychiatric therapy in public school without parental knowledge or consent. This case was won, and the judge decided in her and in their favor. Rivera educates parents on the dangers of labeling children and then the medications that they're given due to these labels. Her work has been featured in the book Walking Targets by educational whistleblower Beverly Eakman. She's been on numerous podcasts and on the TV show Telemundo various times, where Miami students of hers have told their story about the horrible effects of mind-altering drugs and what a change it was for them to get real education at Help Miami. Her TV features have aired in 17 different countries. Help Miami keeps study classes small and personalized, uses dictionaries, and so on. And because of that, it's considered an alternative school, qualifying them for state funding to help children previously labeled. Currently, Barbara is organizing 2 educational projects that will create an impact on a global scale. And there you see her. Buddha, if you can, please, I'd like to bring her up on the screen and bid a warm welcome to Barbara Barbie Rivera. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. You know, I want to get right into it because I know you have so much to share and it's so important. And the first thing I wanted to actually ask you is, as a mother, someone who brought these kids into life, into this world, how did you feel as a mother when you were told that your son was mentally handicapped and needed to go on medication?
Well, every time I tell this story, I could almost cry because it never goes away. First of all, if my son was handicapped, it's fine. That's my responsibility. That's my child. However, he wasn't. And he spoke 2 languages. Like you said, he was exceptionally well behaved. He learned everything I taught him at home. He helped me with his siblings. It was just a very social little boy. And this is the little boy you want to put in a copy machine and have all over the United States of America. He was honest. He was helpful. He please and thank you, all of that. So when they say he's mentally handicapped, first of all, it's a lie. And it's a slap in the face to the parents who actually deal with handicapped children. My son went on sleepovers when he was 4. He would go fishing and could bait his own hook. I have family members with children who are his age where, one of my second cousins has Down syndrome. She's now 37 and she's still in Pampers. That's handicapped. We need to band together for her. My son does not need the same care that she does. So anyway, it was very hurtful. And by the end of 1st grade, my son thought he was stupid. And there is no 6-year-old on the planet who has the right to feel that way. And it broke my heart because it affected everything. If I said, Damon, let's play, I'm very much into board. I'm a very hands-on mom, I read stories to them every night before going to bed. I think for 9 years, I did that. We played board games. We weren't into the video games. We weren't into the TV. So we did a lot of art, a lot of this, a lot of that. Damon, help me make cookies. No, Mom, I can't. I don't know how. I'm stupid. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I felt like I gave the school system a very cared for citizen, and they shut it down. Within 2 weeks, they decided he was mentally handicapped. Like, that's disgusting. Anyway, and that put fire under me.
It's horrific because, a child is so suggestible. They're young. They're still trying to find their way. And then, to do something like that, just by that indication itself, can cause such an emotional upset. I know when, as an adult and as a successful surgeon of 40 years, when somebody tells me something that's just not really anything to do with me or have to do with me, how upset I get. So, it's just unfathomable to do that to children. So, and I know a lot of the parents are going to want to know a lot about what you did because they're going to want to repeat this. So what technology did you apply when you were homeschooling your children and these other children to get these results that you actually achieved? Because I think that's what's important, is the results that you've achieved.
Right. Okay. Well, first of all, before we get to the technology, we have to get to the viewpoint. And it's a short story. When I was in the 4th grade, I read a story and I remember the title of it, Set Me Free. And it was about Helen Keller, blind, deaf, could not speak, who went on to learn what language was and graduated college. I was blown away. like this impacted me, because here I am, a little girl in a big family. I have my dolls, I have my teddy bear. You know, it's like, compared to her, I had nothing that I could really complain about, right? My parents loved me. I could see, I could hear, all of these things. So I'm like, I was so impressed that this girl survived with those horrific disabilities, with those challenges. And it stayed with me. So now, fast forward to a teacher telling me my son is mentally handicapped. I'm like, no, my son can hear, he can see, he can speak. He has every advantage over Helen Keller. And you're going to tell me he's handicapped and unteachable? I'm sorry, I disagree. So first of all, that disagreement, I didn't play, I wasn't mad. I mean, you know, like I wasn't like yelling at the teacher or create a scene. I don't believe in that kind of stuff. But I definitely wasn't going to play games with that. I'm like, once you cross that line, you're dead to me. I'm done. So I took my son out of school, and I had read something. There was a little book called Learning How to Learn, and it's based on the study technology of L. Ron Hubbard. And the first page, it says, and I remember the sentence, you can learn anything you want to learn. And I'm like, there wasn't one psychologist, one teacher, one tutor, one pharmacist, one therapist, one social worker that I had met that thought that. They all thought there was something wrong with the child, and the only solution was medication. Like even with my son, I wasn't even told to tutor him. He was too far gone. And there's many aspects to this, because the other thing is I looked at what they were teaching him, and I remember the book. Now, he could not read, right? Could not read. And it was, he had to write a 3-paragraph book report. I'm like, this is ridiculous. We're going to give him a loss right off the bat. He's 6, right? And again, when I grew up, I didn't get homework. I went to school. I guess I did elementary school in the early 70s, right? We didn't get homework until 4th or 5th grade. We spent all of 3rd grade on multiplication tables and basic division. It wasn't this rapid fire, one day you're doing this, the next day you're doing this, the next day you're doing that, and then let's see what sticks. I was expected to master certain skills before I moved on to the next one. And I'm like, well, what happened with that concept? It's not happening anymore. We're just throwing these packets at my son. He has 3 hours of homework and he's 6 years old. I'm like, I'm not doing this. So I took him out of school. I'm not a trained educator, but out of my drive, I put together a program of simple phonics, manners, like printing, like actual formation of the alphabet and numbers, which isn't done anymore. And by the way, one of the signs of mental illness and learning disability in a child is sloppy handwriting, but they don't teach correct formation of numbers and letters. So I'm like, this is dumb. Another sign of a mental illness or learning disability in a child is they cannot cut with scissors at age 3. And I'm like, what moron gives a 3-year-old scissors? That's ridiculous. Like, seriously. So I get all mad. So I took my son out of school. I apologized to him. I go, I'm not sending you back to school. Now, my other 3 children, now the year I did that, Damon he turned 7 in August. And then a week later, Hurricane Andrew came and wiped out my front yard. Thankfully, my little apartment was still standing. My daughter was 4 at the time, and I had 2 in diapers. And I'm like, well, I'm homeschooling. And another thing that I have in my advantage is I'm an artist. And it's not that I'm even that great, but I am very creative. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to put my paints away, and I'm going to create well-mannered, breathtaking children who just, when they walk in a room, people are like, wow, that's different. And that's what I did. And I did it using really using L. Ron Hubbard's technology, because I mean, there's a lot to study technology, and there's no way we could cover it. And even if we had 3 hours to cover it, we couldn't cover it. But the main thing is that education is a communication process. And if I'm speaking Japanese to you and you don't understand Japanese, I cannot educate you. So now I'm not speaking Japanese, but if I am speaking about any subject matter, whether it's school or home, life, whatever, and I don't define the words, that communication is not going to arrive. And what is fascinating, and I went over the derivations of the words with these kids. Like, I never gave them a dictionary. I don't think I let them use a dictionary until they were 15. I'm like, you ask me what the word means, I will explain it to you, and we will go over example after example. And what is fascinating is each of my children could be in a family with, like, they're so different. They could come from different parents almost. They are so vastly different. The one thing they have in common is they are incredibly intelligent and productive. And to me, that came from going over definitions of the words. Like, for example, one of the things, like the word problem, right? The derivation of the word problem, I believe it's a Latin word. I could be wrong there, but it basically means to throw forward, right? And I know people that just throw their problems forward. You know, like, what is that? Solve something. Solve it. And a 5-year-old can solve the problems of a 5-year-old. Mom, I can't find my shoes. Okay, well, let's look. Like, my kids never approached me when they were older. Hey, I want a skateboard. Give it to me. It was, Mom, there's a skateboard I want. It's a professional model. It's going to cost me $150. If I clean out the garage and do that, can you go in half with me? There was always a solution. I'm like, absolutely. Who's going to say no to that? Right? And that came from definitions of the words. The other plus, and I'm very proud of this fact, my children, they're all in their 30s now. They've never been drunk. They've never been high. They have no interest. No interest. I never had, lots of boys here, a father of a girl complain that my boys were rude or inappropriate with their daughters. Nothing. And to me, that comes from definitions of words and seeing that what you learn in school, even if you are 4 years old, it has to have a positive impact on your 4-year-old life. Otherwise, it's useless information. And now, so I built my little group up and I became an accredited private school. And what I see that comes across my desk now, private school, is horrific of what children are subjected to in school. Testing weekly, daily, and these tests, oh, he's got to take this test. He scored low on this test. I'm like, calm down. He's 6. We have time. Or like the word phonics. Phonics hasn't been correctly taught. This could be a whole other show since 1930. Just saying it. Mathematics, the definitions of the words in the last 15, 20 years have all been switched. The standards of, like, they're introducing algebraic equations to a 6-year-old, which is wrong. We need our 6-year-olds able to master and love numbers. And if you left them alone, they would do it just through games and play. Anyway, so through the years, I've evolved using L. Ron Hubbard's technology and defining words. I have kids that were previously taught or thought unteachable who I do really well. And it's not hard. The hardest thing is convincing the child that he's not stupid and he can learn, and then convincing the parent that there's not one pharmaceutical drug that's going to make me a better cook. I'm in Miami. And Cuban food is huge here. If I read a recipe book, there is no way I could cook like a Cuban.
So I want to ask you something. What's been the response from the parents and your community because these results that you've been getting? What have they been saying to you?
Well, we've had, and by the way, I've been doing this for 31 years, not 40. Like, but yeah, some of the things we do are miracles. Probably one of the most standouts, the first special needs child, and you can see it on my website, was this boy named Jose, and it's a heartbreaking story. Jose was a foster child. His
Sorry to interrupt
mother,
you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What is your website, please? Let's tell them right now. Go ahead.
helpmiami.org.
Helpmiami.org. Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go on.
Okay, so all right, Jose is a foster child. His mother did not survive childbirth. He was born severely brain damaged and was in a coma for the first 3 months of his life. A woman who I later hired was volunteering at a shelter for children and saw the 7-month baby who was deformed in a corner. And all the other kids are singing Old MacDonald and they're in their circle. She's like, get that baby in the circle. They're like, oh, but he doesn't respond. It's like, I don't care. Put him in the circle. I love this woman. So anyway, she brings the baby, has him on her lap, and is working with the baby. So she signed up for foster classes. Now, there's a funny part to this. Hurricane Andrew came. Everything went into chaos. She didn't take one foster class, but yet she was sent her certificate that she was now a certified foster parent. Like, I don't know how this happened. So she was fostering the baby and she brought him home. She had 4 children, or 3 children at the time, and she went on to have another one. And she tells the story that it's now after Christmas, and her husband's like, hey, babe, when do we send the baby back to the shelter? She's like, we don't. He goes, what do you mean we don't? She goes, we adopted him. He goes, we adopted him? Didn't I have to sign something? And she says, you did. And she adopted this boy. Now, at age 3, the terms of the adoption for a boy that the doctor said would never feed himself, never walk, never talk, she had to put him on Ritalin. Otherwise, the state would disapprove the adoption. I can't even imagine. So they put him on Ritalin. When he was 12, Louisa will tell the story. She's like, I was praying to God because this boy is 12. He can't read. He can't write. He's frustrated. He's being bullied beyond belief at school and no one does anything, like forced to eat dirt on the playground daily. And no one does anything. That right there, that gets me angry. So I had just opened my school in a little shopping center and I had help on the side, like a big logo, and you could see right through the windows. And she walks in, she goes, God sent me here. And I'm like, God sends a lot of people my way. So I was telling her one about the drugs, and the boy was on CNS medication, which stands for central nervous system. For 9 years, his central nervous system had been altered by a pharmaceutical psychotropic drug. Not good. And she's telling me about her son. And I remember what I said. I go, look, I cannot guarantee any results, but I can guarantee he will not get worse and he will not get bullied. Absolutely not. So my daughter was 15 at the time, and she was his first teacher, and she did phonics with him. And we had Play-Doh, and he had to make letters in clay and words in clay and little objects in clay. And I had him reading, like when he started reading with younger kids, because it's kind of embarrassing to have a 12-year-old reading The Cat Sat. So he would read to younger kids. And I remember the day, I think he was 15, he came into my office with a middle school math test, pre-algebra, fractions, decimals, percent, and he got an 87% on it. He passed middle school math, something the experts say he would never, ever be able to do. And he went on, it took him a year extra. He went on to graduate high school with a standard diploma. He put himself, while working 2 jobs, because this kid, he was just adopted into the perfect family. Like, the mother does not believe in victimhood at all. She's like, this boy will walk. This boy will talk. I will make sure of it. He started walking and talking when he was 4. Okay, it's a little bit late. And she didn't baby him, which was probably his saving grace. And he didn't want to be babied. So he worked at the grocery store and he worked at IHOP, and he never missed an assignment. Puts himself through trade school and is now an AC technician. And he went into a family-owned air conditioning company where they too had a special needs boy that they trained up. And so they've taken him on. And I'm like, this kid, I'm just telling you, if something was just slightly different, this boy is a genius. Like, if he had all of his faculties, amazing. And he's amazing in the way he is right now. And that family will tell you that my school saved his life, and all of us believing in him saved his life. In his graduation, I'm telling you, we had Kleenex on every other chair because it was just heart-wrenching and so inspiring for him to get up there and say, an expert said I would never walk. An expert said I would never read. I would never be able to feed myself. And I walked and I fed myself and I put myself through school and, like all of these things. And he goes, and I come to this school and they say, Jose, you can do anything you want. Learning how to learn, L. Ron Hubbard. You can learn anything you want to learn. Took him a while, but he got there. Anyway,
wow.
So
you know what, Barbie? I got to tell you, it's an unbelievable result. Not a story, but a result. It's an unbelievable product. You saved this person, this human being's life, this family, the example you're creating. Unfortunately, we're going to have another show because for this show we ran out of time. But, for those of you watching, I want to thank you. For those people out there watching, it's what Miami, tell me again, helpmiami.org, is that right?
Yeah, helpmiami.org.
So helpmiami.org, okay? And, Barbara Rivera, and you can get in contact with her if you have questions. And, I want to thank you for being on the show, and I'd like to have you back again. So will you come back again and keep going?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for what you're doing and the example that you're setting that shows that something can be done about it. It's not futile. It's not hopeless. And with that in mind, let's all apply that and let's see how we can move forward. Let's really help our kids and not label kids. And, let's not label anybody, and let's have a better world. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again on our next episode of A Time for True show.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got. The world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet